The path as the threefold training, or as the practice for generating noble beings. Monks, there are these three trainings. What three? The training in higher virtue, the training in higher mind, and the training in higher wisdom. And what is the training in higher virtue? Here, a monk in this Dhamma and discipline is virtuous, restrained by the restraint of the Patimokkha, perfect in conduct and resort, seeing danger in the slightest faults. He undertakes and trains in the various training rules. This is called the training in higher virtue. And what is the training in higher mind? Here, secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, monk enters and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by initial and sustained thought, with rapture and happiness born of seclusion. With the subsiding of initial and sustained thought, he enters and dwells in the second jhana, which has internal clarity and unification of mind, is without initial and sustained thought, and has rapture and happiness born of concentration. With the fading away, as well of rapture, he dwells equanimous, mindful and clearly comprehending, experiencing happiness with the body. He enters and dwells in the third jhana, of which the noble ones declare. He is equanimous, mindful, one who dwells happily. With the abandoning of pleasure and pain, with the previous passing away of joy and sadness, he enters and dwells in the fourth jhana, which is neither painful nor pleasant, and includes the purification of mindfulness by equanimity. This is called the training in higher mind. And what is the training in higher wisdom? Here a monk understands as it really is. This is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. This is the training in higher wisdom. Friend Visakha, the three divisions of training principles are not included in the Noble Eightfold Path, but the Noble Eightfold Path is included in the three divisions of training principles: right speech, right action, and right livelihood. These qualities are included in the division of virtue, Sila Kanda. Right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These qualities are included in the division of concentration, Samadhi Kanda. Right view and right intention. These qualities are included in the aggregate of wisdom, Panya Kanda. 2. The Noble Path and the Threefold Training. A. From the Eightfold Path to the Threefold Training. The Threefold Training is considered a complete system of practice, which encompasses the entirety of the Eightfold Path and distills the essence of the path for the purpose of practical application. It is thus used as the standard teaching for describing Dhamma practice. It is fair to conclude that the Eightfold Path contains the full essence of Dhamma practice, and the Threefold Training expresses the entirety of Dhamma practice in a practical way. Moreover, the Threefold Training draws upon the essential principles contained in the path and elaborates upon them, providing comprehensive details of practice. The path, Magga, or the Noble Eightfold Path, Ariya Atangika Magga, can alternatively be translated as the Eightfold Path of Noble Beings. Eightfold Path leading one to become a noble being Eightfold Path discovered by the Noble One, the Buddha, or the Supreme Path comprised of 8 factors. The 8 factors are as follows. 1. Right view, samadhi, right understanding. 2. Right thought, sama sankappa. 3. Right speech, sama vacca. 4. Right action, sama kamanta. 5. Right livelihood, sama ajiva. 6. Right effort, sama vayama. 7. Right mindfulness, sama sati. 8. Right concentration, sama samadhi. The term Eightfold Path leads some people to misunderstand that there are 8 separate paths which must be travelled in succession. Once one has completed one path, one then begins another until all 8 are complete. They think that one must practice these 8 factors separately and in chronological order, but this is not the case. The term Eightfold Path clearly refers to a single path with 8 factors. This is similar to a perfectly built road, which possesses many different elements and components. For example, layers of earth, stones, gravel, sand, concrete, and tarmac to build up the road's surface. The road's borders, the lanes, banks where the road curves, light signals, road signs indicating direction, distance, and location, road maps, and street lamps. Just as a road is composed of these different parts and someone driving on it relies on all of them together, so too the path is comprised of 8 factors, and a Dhamma practitioner must apply all of them in an integrated fashion. For ease of understanding, the Buddha classified the 8 path factors into 3 groups, or aggregates: Khandha, Dhammakhandha. These are called the morality group, Sila Khandha, the concentration group, Samadhi Khandha, and the wisdom group, Panya Khandha, or simply virtuous conduct, Sila, concentration, Samadhi, and wisdom, Panya. Here, right speech, right action, and right livelihood are included in the morality group, just as one may distinguish the compressed earth, gravel, sand, etc., which make up the road's surface, as one group. Right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration are included in the concentration group, as one may classify the road's border, embankments, lanes, and curves, those things regulating the road's course and direction, as another group. Finally, right view and right thought make up the wisdom group, just as one may include traffic lights, signs, and street lamps into a third group. This is illustrated as follows. 1. Right view. 2. Right thought. Wisdom. 3. Right speech. 4. Right action. 5. Right livelihood, virtuous conduct. 6. Right effort. 7. Right mindfulness. 8. Right concentration. This classification of the 3 groups, the 3 Dhammakhandha, Sila Khandha, Samadhi Khandha, and Panya Khandha, is a way of grouping similar qualities together. In regard to practical application, these path factors are classified in a similar way, and as a group they are given the name the Threefold Training, Tiso Sika. Individually they are referred to as the training in higher virtue, Adi Sila Sika, the training in higher mind, Adi Chitta Sika, and the training in higher wisdom, Adi Panya Sika. Both of these two groups can be referred to simply as Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Roughly speaking, Adi Sila equals Sila, Adi Chitta equals Samadhi, and Adi Panya equals Panya. These trainings can be illustrated as follows. 1. Training in higher virtue. Adi Sila Sika, right speech, right action, right livelihood. 2. Training in higher mind. Adi Chitta Sika, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. 3. Training in higher wisdom. Adi Panya Sika, right view, right thought. Whereas the classification of the three aggregates simply groups together similar qualities, the threefold training aims to show the sequence of how these qualities are applied in practice. The word Sika can be translated as training, study, discipline, paying careful attention to, practice, or cultivation. This term refers to the essential aspects of training and cultivating one's physical conduct, speech, state of mind, and wisdom, leading gradually to the realization of the highest goal, to liberation, nibbana. Brief definitions for the three trainings are as follows. 1. Training in higher virtue, Adi Sila Sika, training and study on the level of conduct and in line with our moral code in order to be upright in body, speech, and livelihood. 2. Training in higher mind, Adi Chitta Sika, training the mind, cultivating spiritual qualities, generating happiness, developing the state of one's mind, and gaining proficiency at concentration. 3. Training in higher wisdom, Adi Panya Sika, training in higher levels of wisdom, giving rise to thorough understanding, which leads to complete purification of the mind and liberation from suffering. In order to give a complete definition of these three trainings, one must combine an explanation of their purpose. The threefold training refers to the training of conduct, the mind, and wisdom, which leads to an end of suffering and to true happiness and deliverance. The essence of each training in the context of this path of liberation is as follows. The essence of training in higher morality is to live in an upright way in society, supporting, protecting, and promoting a peaceful and virtuous coexistence. Moral conduct is a foundation for developing the quality of one's mind and cultivating wisdom. The essence of training in higher mind is to develop and enhance the quality and potential of the mind, which supports living a virtuous life and is conducive for applying wisdom in the most optimal way. The essence of training in higher wisdom is to discern and understand things according to the truth, to penetrate the nature of conditioned phenomena, so that one lives and acts with wisdom. One knows how to relate to the world correctly and shares blessings with others, endowed with a bright, independent, and joyous mind, free from suffering. The essence of the threefold training is not confined to an individual, but also has a bearing on or appeals to people's responsibilities in the context of their communities and society, to establishing social systems, building institutions, arranging activities, and applying various methods in order for the essence of these trainings to be integrated in society, or for people to be grounded in the threefold training. Here, a moral code acts as a basis for these social systems, which then links to the training in higher morality. Broadly speaking, when the term sila encompasses a moral code or discipline, the meaning of sila includes creating an environment, both physical and social, which helps to prevent evil, unskillful actions and promotes virtuous actions. This is especially true in relation to setting up social systems and social enterprises, by establishing communities, organizations, or institutions, and by enacting a moral code and prescribing rules and regulations. for regulating the behavior of people and promoting communal well-being. The technical word for such a moral code is Vinaya. Strictly speaking, setting down a moral code, Vinaya, is a preparation or an instrument for establishing people in virtuous conduct, Sila. Technically, Vinaya has not yet reached this stage of Sila, but as mentioned above, in relation to spiritual training, moral discipline is connected to and is a foundation for moral conduct. So, when speaking comprehensively, Vinaya is included in the term Sila. A moral code should be prescribed appropriate to the objectives of a particular community or society. For example, the monastic discipline Vinaya that the Buddha laid down for both the bhikkhu and the bhikkhuni communities contains both precepts dealing with monks' and nuns' individual behavior, and those dealing with communal issues, administration, looking into and considering legal issues, imposing penalties, appointing Sangha officials, procedures for Sangha meetings, proper decorum for both receiving visitors and for being a guest oneself, and the use of communal possessions. In the context of the wider society, the Buddha suggested broad principles to be used by leaders and rulers who should determine the details of behavior in relation to their state or nation. An example is the teaching on the imperial observances, Chakravati Vata, which presents principles for a king or emperor to rule in a righteous fashion, favourable to all members of the population, to prevent lawlessness, immorality, and evil in the country, and to distribute wealth so that none of the citizens are left destitute. In contemporary parlance, disciplinary code Vinaya, fostering virtuous conduct, Sila, in society as a whole encompasses many aspects, including the government, legislature, the judiciary, the economy, cultural traditions, social institutions, and other important aspects, like the policy around adult entertainment centres, places of ill repute, addictive substances, crime, and professional standards. Essentially, higher mind adhicitta or concentration refers to methods of developing tranquility, samatha, to various methods of tranquility meditation, which many teachers and meditation centers have designed and established in the evolution of Buddhism, as is evident in the meditation systems described in the commentaries, which have been adapted over the ages. But in a general, comprehensive sense, higher mind or concentration encompasses all the methods and means to induce calm in people's minds, to make people be steadfast in virtue, and to rouse enthusiasm and generate perseverance in developing goodness. From a broad perspective, similar to including Vinaya in the term Sila, the training in higher mind includes a system of establishing virtuous friend, Kalyanamita, of providing for the 7 favourable conditions, Sappaya, and of enhancing the quality of the mind so that people progress in meditation and in mind development. This includes such things as establishing places that are relaxing and refreshing, creating a cheerful, bright atmosphere in people's living spaces, offices and work sites, educating people to think in positive ways, instilling in people's minds the qualities of loving kindness and compassion, a desire to do good, and a wish for spiritual refinement, organizing activities that help generate virtue, encouraging people to adopt a spiritual ideal, and teaching people to strengthen the mind and increase its capability. In a strict literal sense, higher wisdom, adipanya, refers to the development of insight, vipassana bhavana, for which the systems of practice have evolved in a similar way to methods of practicing concentration, but from a wider perspective which takes into account the essence and objective of wisdom. This level of practice refers to all activities of developing one's thinking and knowing, encompassing the entire spectrum of what is called study or training. Such study relies on virtuous friends, especially one's teachers, to transmit learning, sutta, knowledge, and proficiency in the arts and sciences, beginning with vocational knowledge, which is a matter of virtuous conduct, sila. Vocational or academic knowledge in itself, however, does not qualify as adipanya. Teachers should establish faith in their students and encourage them to think for themselves. At the very least, the students should develop right view in line with Dhamma. Over and above this, teachers can help students to see things according to the truth and to relate to the world correctly, to live wisely, to develop an effective practice that subdues defilement and dispels suffering, to benefit others and to be happy. Generally speaking, providing a training on this level is the function of schools or institutes of learning. Such places should support the training in all three levels: virtuous conduct, concentration, and wisdom. They should not focus exclusively on wisdom. This is because the training in higher wisdom is the highest stage of training, the completion of which relies on the first two stages as a foundation. Moreover, these three levels of training are mutually supportive. Only when these three stages of development are well integrated is spiritual practice true and complete. In everyday circumstances, the gradual and interrelated practice according to the threefold training is easy to illustrate. For example, when people live together peacefully, they do not need to experience mistrust or fear. When one does not perform bad deeds, the heart is at ease. When the heart is at ease, one is able to reflect on and understand things effectively. When one does not perform bad deeds, one is self-confident and the mind is settled. When the mind is settled, one is able to contemplate things earnestly and directly. When one performs good deeds, say by helping someone else, the mind is joyful and clear. When the mind is clear, one's thinking too is clear and agile. When there are no issues of enmity and revenge between people, the mind is not overcast or in conflict. When the mind is not clouded or bad-tempered, one contemplates things clearly, without bias and distortion. From such well-prepared foundations, a person is able to develop more refined levels of spiritual practice.